Hi everyone, it's Kira with Polymer Clay TV, and today I'm going to show you how to make a little wall pocket for your phone and your charger. Let's get started. You're going to need a large-ish piece of silkscreened clay, and for that one I used the Magic Carpet Ride silkscreen and some gilding polish. That's what it's called, gilding polish. It's sparkly. I like it. It silk screens really well. I am going to use my texture stack, which is basically 6 stamps that all fit together for storage. Probably a blade, possibly an X-Acto knife, and maybe some rubber tools for getting into spaces where your fingers don't fit. And I had 2 colors. I've got an olive green and a gold color. And I went ahead and silk screened my first piece of clay to about the size of the actual screen, which is 6.5 by a little over 3 inches. Alright, so we've got another shade of clay. This is the Sculpey Soufflé in Royalty, and this is Primo Accents in Purple Pearl. So we're going to make sure that this is wider than the base piece. And we're going to take the texture stacks and choose a couple of them to make an overall sort of pattern. Now before you use these, you might want to give them a little scrub with a soft toothbrush because they are laser cut, and that means that there's a little bit of sort of a residue or powdery stuff in here from just the process of making them. And if you just give them a little quick scrub, it'll release the powdery stuff from out of there. You might want to rinse them in the sink, whatever. I just scrubbed mine. They're going to be fine. And they are a rubber stamp, so you just stamp them like you would any other rubber stamp and get a texture. Just keep going till you feel like you're done. I'm going to make sure that I get it all around the edges here because I am going to cut this to fit it over this. So what I mean by that is that I'm going to be cutting this off, and I'll just make a mark here and a mark here for the size that I want this to be. So just release the extra clay from the edges, and then I'm going to cut it nice and flush across the bottom, straight. Alright, so that this should fit pretty much over this. There we go. And then we're going to cut a sort of triangle. I'm going to use my flexible blade so that I can bend it in like this. And try to match that curve on the other side. And then if I feel like I missed any texture, I can fix it, although this is going to be curled back on itself, so I don't really need to. Alright, next, here's how we're going to play with this to make the actual charger holder. I'm going to take a piece of paper because I don't want this to stick to this except for across the bottom. So I'm going to put the paper here, and I'm going to lay this on here like so, matching up the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick one of these textures to really press it down. So that it's pressed on there and it's all meeting together. Then I'm going to roll this top back, and I'll need another piece of this to keep it from catching on itself. So I'm going to gently roll this top piece. If I just grab it and twist it, it could break, so you don't want to do that. You want to sort of gently get it to come around. It's also very cold where I am currently in Maryland, so that's another reason why I'm not just kind of grabbing the clay and making it do what I want. I'm going to fold this little guy up just because I think it'll look nicer that way. And this piece of paper here will help maintain that from sticking to itself when I'm ready. So I'll leave that to the side. And before I'm doing anything else here, I'm just going to go ahead and use my gilding polish to highlight this design. And the polish is super fun because you can layer colors, and since I've already got that green, like a gold green color, this is olive, golden olive is the color. I'm just going to highlight some areas of this with a little bit of that, bring it all together. Green gold is one of my favorite colors. Maybe do some emphasis of it around the edges. You can mix all your colors of this stuff. It makes it look aged and interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to let that dry before I shape the final process here. All right, so one of the things that we've got to do here is put a little bend in here because we want it to hold our phone. And I'm going to use this little bamboo piece. We have a set of aluminum rods in the shop. I just can't find mine right now. That would be perfect for this project, but at the moment they're missing. So I'm just going to roll this back from where I attached it and put this here so that I can create space. So now I've got this propped basically for baking so that it bakes in this position with a pocket there. And then this one we also want to have rolled, and we don't want it to stick, so I'm going to be putting something on there to weight it. And what can I use? Probably I'll use one of these little guys because they're sort of heavy to weight this down. See that? So you can prop and use your tools and things to help you with your polymer clay pieces so that they work the way you want them to. So what I'm noticing right now is that this piece of paper is too big here because I need still room for the spot where the charger is going to go. So this is just a metal letter from my letter set that is heavy enough to hold that down while it's baking. I'm just going to flip this around so I can work on the top part. Metallic gold Sculpey 3, which is a nice soft clay. Okay, and I'm going to make a little hole up here and surround it with a snake of the Sculpey 3 that I will also texture. And Sculpey 3 tends to be a softer, kind of different properties to this clay. It's more brittle after baking, so I wouldn't make a whole thing out of it that I was going to use in this way. I'm using Primo and Soufflé because they're very flexible after baking. But this is just for an accent, so it's going to be fine. And it's going to make a nice smooth rope, which is what I want. So before we do that, we just need to see how big our hole has to be. And because I know I'm going to use this brick, I'm going to go ahead and cut out. I'll be able to really see what I'm doing here if I use my X-Acto. So I'm just going to cut a hole in my design that is big enough to go around my brick so that that can sit against the wall on the plug where it's supposed to. Okay, and then you can fix that if you want. I'm not too concerned because I'm going to be putting the piece of other clay over it. All right, and then I'll just make a little rope of clay using my Sculpey 3. And once you have that, you can just place it on the edge here of your hole. So you see how you could do this custom made for any charger that you have. When you get to the back to the edge there, just chop it off with your finger and smooth it out. If you can't get your finger in there, you can always grab a tool. That's why I love my rubber tools. They work really well for this. And then just make sure everything's all smooth around the inside. And we're just going to grab one of these guys and texture it again right around the edge. And this makes it look interesting, and it also makes sure that it's pressed down real good. And then the final test will be to take your brick and just make sure that it sets inside of there really well. You don't want it to be popping off the wall when you're trying to charge, so make sure it sits in there and that you made your hole the right size. And then you can mess around with the outer edge. So do I want it to be all square like that? Not really. So I'm going to go ahead and round it off and take some of that extra clay off of there. Maybe just even it out a little bit. Okay, and then I'm gonna throw this whole thing in the oven. So you can see what I'm doing here. I've got it propped open at the bottom, and I've got this area here that's open, and then I've got it weighted with something else to hold it all together. And I've got paper between the layers so that my clay actually does not get stuck to itself. So I'm gonna put this whole thing in the oven for 30 minutes. Here we are, fresh out of the oven. And be careful if you used metal like I did when you're taking these out of here. They're a little hot. We can remove the paper and then check your phone placement. Oop, still have that in there. Okay. Okay, so before you put this on the wall, you want to test it and make sure that it can handle the weight of your phone, which this is going to handle the weight of an iPhone. The only issue is if your phone is very big, like they have been getting bigger and clunkier lately, then it could fall forward like this, and you don't want that to happen. So how you secure this will be up to you, but I'm going to use some of this stretchy ribbon that they sell for hair ties, and I'm going to slide a piece up in here and just cut off and tie a piece that will fit right around the back of this thing. So that's going to look like this in a simple knot. As close to the ends as I can get it. All right, and then I might even hide that inside of here. We'll have to see when we take it down to the outlet. I'm going to cut the excess off. Let's see how that looks if I go like this. Yeah. Okay, so this is just going to slip right behind here to hold my phone and all my cables and everything in there so that it doesn't flop forward and break. So once you have that done, you can take your cable, roll it up, and slip it right inside that little channel that you made right here. So this whole thing will hold onto your cables, and then when you take it to the outlet, you can just slip your phone in this channel here, hook this around the back, and plug it in. And here it is. You can slide your cord up into the little channel right there, plug in your phone and your charger. I really hope that you enjoyed this idea and that you will show us over at the Tribe, Polymer Clay Tribe, what you've created. It's so fun to make cute little things for your home with polymer clay. I know we spend a lot of time making jewelry and other things like that, but I just thought this was a fun little thing that I could make for my studio that would be decorative and functional and get those cords taken care of. So thanks for creating along with me today, and I hope I see you next week on Polymer Clay TV.